Reading through Ezra 4, again, it repeats and confirms. Ezra prays and says, to the Creator, you yourself created the earth alone. You yourself created man alone. And then goes on and makes his request. And in the Creator's answer about the last days, the day of judgment, he says, I myself will judge. And it's a very clear theme throughout it, as I've mentioned in other videos. He told his son, and in Ezra it does mention the son, and it does so by name. So he's supposed to make his enemies, and therefore his son's enemies, a footstool for his son before he turns the kingdom over to him. And it just further impresses on me how the first century Jewish religious leaders got rid of books such as this book of Ezra, Jubilees, Yasher, Enoch, because it exposes their deception about the calendar, and it exposes that the Messiah has come. And they turned to a more esoteric approach where if you go to your local synagogue, like I went to the local one here, they don't believe in a person of God. It's all Kabbalah, it's all mysticism, and it's New Age. We are all one, we are all God. And then you move into Christianity and why they would also not include those books, because they disprove the deification of their Messiah image. So because I have the experience of being a conscious channeler, which is what the prophets of old would have been, I understand that when the Creator comes in to us to speak, to use us as a mouthpiece, it says, it identifies itself. And then it speaks its words. So I'm just a speaker, like a loudspeaker, and God's got the microphone and it's coming out of me. So this is how I know that the Messiah, when he says, oh, the Father's greater than me, and he prays to the Father, but he speaks also, the Father speaks through him, and he manifests the Father. I have made you known by doing that. Now the difference in this, now remember, he told Moses, I would send a prophet who will, say just what I tell him to say. Unlike Moses, who struck the rock out of anger, said, should I bring you water? Through all the old prophets, the prophets themselves, they're all first person records, whether they've been copied or, this prophet said, God came to me, and then they speak from the perspective of the prophet in the first person and said to me, I, your God, and so forth. Where that is very absent in the New Testament writings about this man that is the Messiah. So both ends from the old do not want to accept the new, and they don't want that God of vengeance with a personality, with responsibility, somebody that they have to answer to. Or they're so extreme and legalistic, like the Orthodox Jews and Hasidic Jews and all of that, which cling to like ancient ways, like child marriage, and you're going to eat your enemies, literally. And then the new doesn't want anything to do with the old. And they come up with a new God who is very much a person that they can identify with. So they humanize God. They deify God. And make him basically just like a president or another ruler that they can't see and doesn't really go against all of the, they don't have to follow his law. They just have to say, oh, I accept you, you forgive me. Great, let's go celebrate Christmas. Let's go celebrate Easter. Yeah, let's be like the nations around us. So, it's just impressed on me. There are few and far between. And for those of us who are just looking for community, somewhere to fit in, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I was watching the story of, it was a great testimony. It was like very powerfully moving, but, it was miraculous. But the fallen angels can do miraculous things. So they adopt a child, and she's autistic. Autistic children, the trauma in unnatural childbirth, getting immunization shots, it shocks them, and in that moment of freeze, another spirit can come into them, and so they're familiar with this spirit, and basically, I'm not going to say all of them, but that opens the door for possession. And so, like, a lot of them have these special skills, and if they're communicative enough, they will agree that there's an ascended master in them, and that they're psychic and all kinds of things. So this autistic daughter tells them, oh, I'm going to pray that we can adopt 2 twin baby boys. Lo and behold, they get a phone call. There were twin baby boys born on the day that she said she was going to start praying that prayer. And one of them comes over, and he's demon possessed with a principality. They get, by the end of the story, there's like over 100 exorcist professionals, what do they call it when they, deliverance clergy, all gathered around praying. Prayer warriors is this huge thing, and they cannot get rid of it. So eventually they had to adopt that child out to somebody else, to another family, and they're tore up about it. They're just, they're wondering, like, what about the scriptural example where the apostles couldn't get the demon out of the little boy, and then they were told, well, it takes fasting and prayer and faith, and the Father says, help me with my unbelief. So I'm sitting there, and I'm engripped. I want to hear about the miracles. I want to hear how God's moving powerfully in people's lives. And then it all clicks. Autistic daughter convinces them that they need to adopt twins so one principality can invade another. So one of those African demonic spirits of high order just got moved, relocated, or kind of can be in both places at once, has a foothold now in the United States through a little he was like 3-4 years old when he came here and started just terrorizing everybody and everything. And again, he's talking about how his kids are coming to him, are we going to get Christmas presents? And, he has no job all of a sudden. All their money went to, taking care of this little boy. And it's like so disappointing for me that Christians know that Christmas and Easter have pagan roots. They dismiss it. They don't believe God. When God says, stay away from that stuff, they don't believe him. Oh, it doesn't really mean that. Oh, it doesn't. They don't believe God. That's disbelief. And it's just very disappointing to me, because I would have rather have seen the story that, all these denominations that would have never worked together suddenly come together on this one thing. And yet all of them, hundreds, the most powerful Catholic exorcists, the most powerful deliverance specialists, prayer warriors that are well known, experts in demonology, the ones who finally revealed to him, this is like a principality. This is not your average demon. And out of all those professed believers, not one of them is going to stand before God in the day of judgment and say, we did all these, look, I adopted these children, I was an advocate for adoption, I was a minister, we did this, we did that in your name. He's going to say, that's not my name. I don't know you. Get away from me, you worker of lawlessness. I mean, that hurts. That hurts a lot. And it makes you really want to get to know the true God and fall into line with what he wants for us. So that when we say we are a believer, we're speaking the truth. We're true believers. And I appreciate that. I appreciate knowing that. So yes, it is the Father himself that is going to stand judgment and hand over a peaceful kingdom to his Son. And no father would do any less. You don't give your children a business, an inheritance that's all wrapped up in debt. Some do, but ideally you don't. You try to create generational wealth, not generational debt. So that's just another impression. Who is it that's going to judge the nations? The Father himself.